All right, good evening, everyone. This is FET263. This is going to be the intro video for my OS6 library. It's been a long time coming. I decided to do this live, so this will eventually become the. This will, sorry about that. This will eventually become the intro video um, for the library itself because I wanted to go over obviously how to use it, but also some concepts. There's a lot of stuff behind this. So I figured I'll do this live, and that way hopefully the audio is good. So hopefully you guys are able to hear me. Um, First and foremost, I will be trying to push the library live later tonight, or else it'll be tomorrow morning. I do have a few pieces that I'm trying to finish up. I've been kind of in crunch mode to get this launched, but I made a promise that I would do this today, so we're going to go for it. But the actual library may go live in the morning, just because it's already late here for me. But as soon as it's ready, it will be posted everywhere so everybody can jump in. But I wanted to put this video together because without the explanations, I think there may be some questions. So off the bat, what you're seeing is going to be the new intro. One of the changes in discussing with Frederick is I'm putting copyrights on all the code I write. Everything is still open source. Everything is free to be used. You are still free to do what you've done in the past. The difference being there, unfortunately, were some people out there who have in the past and maybe still currently take code from the previous libraries and then maybe make one or two little changes and then pass it off as their own. It's not really cool, but there's also other reasons for that. The copyright code that's going to come with all the new styles, which those of you who've seen the test styles have actually seen it. It's going to be a large comment section. It's actually really important for three different reasons, and we're going to get into that. But please keep the copyright with the code if you take the code from the library. If you take code from the library and are going to use it for your own Sabre, or you're using it for an install, you're going to want to keep that copyright section on purpose. As I said, if you're modifying the code, you can make notes within the copyright that you've added or changed or done something like that. But all the code in this library has taken me, particularly this library, has been about a year's worth of development. It's a lot of time. So I know, everybody has little changes they want to make, but just keep in mind that a lot of the legwork has already been done. That being said, this is going to pop up every time just to make sure everybody understands that it is open source. It is under the general public license for usage along with ProffieOS. So you just click in. There's nothing going to happen if it's just a click screen to go into a grid. This is going to be the intro screen. This is nice. This little space right here that you're going to see now, that's going to be where the video that I am making right now goes. And that's so that everybody can understand how everything works. I'm purposely putting as much info up front as possible because OS 6 has a lot of changes, and a lot of what is going to be in the library is really meant to enhance and or take the stuff to the next level. So through the development of OS 6, I've kind of had a straight line goal of being able to make these styles do a lot more, and also make it easier for new users to get in, and also for users who are getting these from from installers to be able to use them. I get a lot of input and feedback and questions through the older libraries and through the various sources. So I kind of take that in, and I've tried to apply as much of it as possible here. So all of these buttons are going to take you to the necessary information. If you have questions about any of it, I've tried to document as much as possible. So these are going to be here. And what you're going to see is when you close this screen, these are going to stay present. So we're going to close this up. And they go up into this little guy right here, this little pop-down menu. So if you need to ever jump back to them, you can click there at any time. All these will jump you out, and we'll go through a couple of these. And then you can close it out. I also have a menu here just with a bunch of other related stuff. A lot of this is documentation, but all this stuff is going to be linked. And then, of course, our other links along the bottom. So to actually get the OS from Frederick's site, again, the intro, if you are using ProffieOS Workbench, the Crucible being key, the wiki, the manual, open source, and Proffie board groups on Facebook. So lots of resources. I want to put everything at everybody's fingertips. I'm also still working on videos. That's actually been one of the longer processes here, is getting not only the library built and getting the style code all worked into OS 6, but also getting videos shot of it to make it a little easier. So I'm going to have videos. Any sections that are missing videos, they are in production. So I'll be adding more and more videos. Also, this is the very beginning of the library, so I tried to fit as much as I can into this initial launch, and I'm calling this phase one because I actually have technically I have 2 or 3 really big pieces that I just haven't finished yet that are going to come in future updates. I also have a backlog of styles that I'm converting over to OS 6. So if there's a style from the OS 5 library that you don't see here right now, it's already on my list to be done, so you don't have to ask about it. As I do the updates, I'll probably try to do some batch updates, a couple a week, again, as time allows. And I'll obviously put up notes that they are going to be available. And then also, I've been testing the hell out of this thing, but this is a brand new library from top to bottom. All the code is brand new. All the styles are brand new. All the combinations are brand new. If you pull down any code, if you have any problems with the site, I started a library beta thread on the Crucible. Please just click this link and post the whatever issue you're going to have. If it's a problem with the site, just post the description of the site. If it's a problem with a compile on any code that you get from here, again, the copyright info that we're going to take a look at in a little bit is actually all I'll need, which is one of the many purposes it's going to serve, and that'll help me debug it. So I've tried to test all style code that I've put in here, but because I'm taking code from OS 5, converting it to OS 6, and then as you'll see, there's actually new ways that this code is getting utilized. There's always the potential that miss a comma, miss a bracket, or there's something in the scripts that actually put the code together for you that got missed. But I have tested most of this, but I will say that there's probably a few things I just fit in that I didn't beat up on. So if you get a compile error from any code taken from here, it's not the end of the world. I'm hoping not, but it would be expected given that this is a beta. Just post in that thread and I will get it fixed as fast as I can. All right, so I'm gonna do kind of an explanation concept thing. So first, there's a lot to cover, but I'm gonna try to cover it. All these styles are automatically going to work with edit mode. They are automatically going to work with the ProffieOS workbench. Doesn't mean you need to use them. I know a lot of our older or people who are really familiar with Proffie don't need the edit mode menu. They don't necessarily need to edit styles and do all that stuff. The capabilities that are being built in, though, actually open a lot of doors for all users. And how you build your styles is going to be dependent upon what you want to do with them. And also, there's some efficiency things, which is one of the things we're going to talk about now. So this is a quick, easy start point. So this is going to be the rotoscope style. You will notice this library has a very different very different layout from all the previous ones. That's because of everything that's been opened up with edit mode, as well as the new structure for these styles. So what I'm doing now is you'll see that there's actually going to be drop downs of variations of all of the different styles. So I'm grouping them based on the basic style itself, but you'll see here, like this is the rotoscope style. There's a lot of additional variations, and they're all described in the text there. I won't read through all of it now, but you're going to be able to pick and choose for, depending upon, in this case, there's an original trilogy version, and a hyper-responsive rotoscope is one of the new ones that I've just put together. It actually, what it does is, in breaking down the rotoscopes from the original trilogy, particularly, really the Empire Strikes Back is where I was really looking just out of personal interest. The animation, particularly on Luke's saber, when he moves the saber around, the animation disappears. So there is kind of a rolling pulse up the blade. It's sporadic, but it stops whenever the blade's in motion. And I spoke about this in actually this Let's Talk About Saber Effects video. The reason for that is they were actually drawing on the cells, the film cells, to animate the blades. And when you have movement across a small number of frames, it's obviously a lot harder to draw that animation in. But I took that concept, brought it real world, so that if you use the hyper-responsive rotoscope style, it's going to have the normal rotoscope activity on it, which is that kind of pulse effect. The speed is going to be based on the different versions, original, trilogy, prequel, sequel. But the hyper-responsive, if you move your blade, depending upon how quickly you move it, so the acceleration of that movement, what it'll do is it'll actually get rid of the animation temporarily, and how long it takes the animation to get back up to full speed is going to be dependent upon that acceleration. So it's just kind of a cool thing. It's using some of the new features to combine, but that's going to be in here. So what I'm going to do is I have a config setup. Now, I'm not going to go into setting your whole config up because that's a whole other video to be done, but I want to show something and I want to explain the thought behind it, and then we'll go into a little bit more. So I'm going to just start real quick and easy. So you're going to choose whatever the style is. We'll talk about the options in a second, but I'm going to start with the original trilogy, hyper responsive. I'm going to click here. I'm in my enhancement screen. Within the enhancement screen is where now you're going to pick your base color. These base colors are the same as the color list in my prop. So you can choose any. So the old libraries always had the 8 colors. The new library is going to have all of the colors built in, with the exception of the colors like the white and the Navajo white, moccasin. Those are considered really effect colors for like blasts and clashes. I don't put those as a base color. What happens if you have white, particularly as a base color, a lot of your effects become very hard to see. So they aren't technically there. Now, because of edit mode, you can actually choose a color and turn it white if you wanted to for your base color, but I decided to go without it. If you do want a white blade, particularly like Ahsoka's, I always say use the silver blade, and I do have the new Glacier color. Silver is the color I use for all white sabers because it's got enough of a difference in color that the white effects or whatever color effects you use still show up. So that would be my recommendation, but it's going to be whatever you want. But you'll pick your base color. And this is obviously stolen straight from the library. It just changes the color just so you have an idea of what you're going to get. This is not an animation. It's just a color. But I wanted to give something to signify it. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to put together just kind of a couple quick things. Oops. And then we'll go deeper. So I'm going to pick, I want to get a preon. I'm going to choose my overload preon. I'm only choosing one of each. We're going to talk about options in just a minute. I'm going to choose, I want to get a power. I'm going to leave a standard ignition. I'd like to get a power up effect. I'm going to use unstable power up, which is the one that's most popular. I'm going to leave a standard retraction, which is a normal wipe in. You can obviously change your colors. You can change your timings. But I'm going to do this quickly to get into an explanation of something else. And I'm going to, let's see, I'm going to leave all this for now. I am going to put an on-demand battery effect in. And then I'm going to click Get Style Code. And then just like the old libraries, it puts it in your clipboard. So all you got to do is hit OK. And then you're going to go to your config. And I've already got this one prepped. And I'm going to paste. And this is the copyright info. I said you're going to want to leave this with all your styles, even if you're making edits. And this is going to come into play in a minute. Now, this particular config is for my Fallen Order saber. So I have the regular main blade, which is the code I just grabbed. And I have a crystal chamber that's at the bottom. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to close the main blade and I'm going to choose crystal chamber. So I've combined the accents, the crystal chamber, the quillions, and the main blade here so you can easily get in and out of all of these. So we're going to choose a crystal chamber. And for your on behavior of the crystal chamber, I'm going to choose, I'll leave it on the Kyber flow up. It's a new style I put together. Off behavior, let's give this maybe a heartbeat. So when the saber's off, it'll have a heartbeat effect. I do want that to be blue since my saber's blue. I'm not going to put preon on it, but I do want it to match my power-up effects. So I'm going to pick my unstable, and I want the cooldown to match. And then again, you can add all these other capabilities in, but I'm going to, for now, leave this, and I'm going to get this style code. And so these are just really quick, simple, single styles, just like the old-fashioned way of doing things. But now I've got that first preset, and I'm going to do a second preset this time, and I'm going to stay in this general group. I'm going to actually, let's go with, we'll choose, actually, I'm going to grab I'll go with the regular rotoscope instead of the hyper for this one. And again, I'm going to get my main blade. For our purposes, I'm going to leave everything blue, but I don't want this, I actually don't want a preon on this font. So in order to turn the preon off, I can either choose none or disable. I'm going to choose none. I don't want a preon. I actually want to change. I want to have a spark tip ignition on this one. And I don't want a power effect because it might get in the way of the spark tip. And we'll do a run up, which is where we wipe up. And I'm going to do no cooldown effect and then change whatever. Let's get that style code. And we'll just paste that there. And then I need a crystal for this. So I'll close here. I'm going to get this crystal chamber. This time, I think while it's on, maybe we'll do, let's do it just an audio flicker when it's on. And then when it is off, we'll just do a slow pulse. And I don't want a power up effect on either of these. So I'm going to get the style code for that. And I'm just making very simple choices. There's obviously a ton more in here, but we'll talk about that in a minute. And then I'm just going to do a third preset. And this is what we would call the typical way that you would normally go through and build your styles. And this time, we'll go to the prequels, and we'll do hyper responsive on the prequels. Do my main blade again. I'm going to leave that, but this time I want to do a different preon. I want to do the faulty ignition, and then I don't want spark tip. Actually, I want to get a dual mode wipe for this one. I do want a power up effect, but I'm going to choose a different one. And then I do want dual mode for this. And then I do want a cooldown one. I'll choose a different one. And then again, you can make all the other changes, but we're going to change this. And this may seem like it's not going anywhere. I'm going to show you something in just a sec. Let's get this third one in for the crystal. All right, so this time we'll do, actually I'm going to do a unstable flicker when it's on. And when it's off, I'm going to actually do, where is it, my new battery level heartbeat. So this one is new. This does a heartbeat effect, but the color of the heartbeat is going to be based on your battery level. So if it's a full battery, you're going to get a green heartbeat. If it's a low battery or medium battery, you're going to get a yellow heartbeat. And if it's low, it's going to be a red heartbeat. So this way your crystal chamber while your saber is off, actually on top of having a crystal effect, you're going to actually end up having a battery effect. And we want, I'm going to not have a preon on the crystal, but I do want my power up effects to match. So I did the power burst. And I'm going to do power burst in reverse. And we're going to get that style code. And paste that, and we're going to save. And let's compile this. And hopefully I don't have any bugs. I think this was the combos I tested. So if I have a bug, then it comes with the territory. And it should go pretty quick because it's only 3 presets. Gotta love waiting. So I'm not paying attention to chat, guys. I apologize. I am going to try to catch up with it. And for all the questions that I'm sure I'm getting, I'm going to walk through a lot more detail in a second. I want to preface everything with a concept, which is where this is trying to get to. There we go. So I'm going to leave this screen up. So we only at 74%, but it's only 3 presets, so that's pretty much a given. So now I'm going to actually show you guys the concept behind what options are. The idea behind options. So what we're going to do is I'm going to get rid of 2 of these presets for now. And I'm just making this easy so it's easier to paste. And I'm going to get rid of the styles that are there. All right, so that was 3 presets, 3 different styles, mixes of preons and power-up effects and cooldown effects, etc. And that was 74%. Now, options came to me during the building process, and they were something that we added to OS 6. Now, they run through either edit mode or through web USB, so ProffieOS Workbench, or you can technically edit the presets INI by hand. That's a little bit trickier. I still have to do a lot more write-up on that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to replicate those 3 styles as a single style using options. And what you're going to see is not only am I going to save memory, I'm actually going to get more than what I just got out of those 3. So I think my first one was the original trilogy. My second one was the original trilogy in single color. And my third one was hyper responsive. So I am now building style options. And these you'll see in that code, which we're going to look at in a second. But I've got 3. And you can add up to 5, technically 6 because it starts at 0 if you wanted to. And this is going to be where you think out what you want what you want to do with your saver. So if you're just the type of person who just wants a single font to have a single style and you like doing it that way and that's how you always want to do it, you can do it just like I just did previously. If you want to be able to take one preset and turn it into dozens or more styles with tons of fonts and more changes, that's where these options come in. So the library is built to handle all types of users for all types of uses. And this is going to be where we're going to save some memory now. And we're actually going to get more out of one style than we did out of those three we just built. And I'm going to basically try to mimic exactly what I did. So I'm going to build my main blade with these three style options active. And we started with the overload. The second one, I actually didn't want a pre-on, so that's disabled. What that does is no effect. And then my third option was the faulty ignition. And we're going to leave it at that. My very first style had standard ignition. My second had a spark tip. And my third had dual mode. My first had the unstable power-up. My second, I didn't want a power-up effect. And my third, I had the power burst. And then we had a normal retraction, we had a run-up, and we had a dual mode. And then we had the unstable cooldown. We had none, which is disable. So disable as an option lets you turn that effect off with that option number enabled. And then we'll do the power burst in reverse. And leave everything else the same. The reason that this screen remembers everything is for this very reason, because it allows you to easily build styles. Now, for those of you who are paying attention, this number here, if I go take this away, is all the potential combinations that I just put together. So previously, I just built three presets that were unique to each other, and it would have essentially been three styles. By using all these style options and the way the library compiles them, this one style that I'm about to drop actually has 729 unique combinations, because I can pick all of the different option numbers and combine them in different ways. So I can combine the base effect, I have three of them, with the three different ignitions and the three different power-ups and the three different pre-ons and the three different retractions and the three different cool-ons, etc., and so on and so forth, so that you can actually get 729 totally unique presets out of this one style. Let's get the style code. I'm going to drop it in. And it's actually going to tell me that as part of this code. We're going to go through this in a minute. And now I just need my crystal chamber code. Now, crystal chambers and accents, the library handles them even better. So we're going to go here. So I'm going to just do the 3 demo because it's what we were talking about earlier. So we're going to start off with the Kyber flow up. And then I think I did an audio flicker for on. And then the last one was the unstable flicker. Off activity was, I think we did a heartbeat. We did, maybe it was, I'm getting myself tripped up. I think it was a slow pulse. I wanted to try to match it exactly, but I actually can't read my own handwriting. And then the battery level. And then, like I said, we had power-ups. We had the unstable. We had it disabled. And then I had the burst. And I'm purposely matching these effects to what I had. And then I did the reverse, disabled, and the power burst. And now I have 81 possible crystal chamber combinations out of this style. Paste that. Forgot to put my break in here just so I have some space. We're going to save it. And is this, all right, so that's the one we just ran, right? No, that's my other one. I have 2 windows. This is the one we just ran. Yeah, the 74%. This was for a different test. So this time I have, the right config up. We're going to run this one. So this is one preset with all the new combinations in it. And we're going to see what we do. We're going to end up saving, I think it ends up, because this is on, I didn't choose everything. This will probably be 1,000 bytes. But the potential end result is going to be significantly more useful. So we'll let her run. And yeah, it was about 1,000 bytes. So we saved about 1%, but this is one preset. This one preset, this one here for the main blade has 729 unique combinations. And this is now where this becomes important. So obviously, as I noted in the very beginning, I do have my copyright in here. This link will update so that if you need to get back to your style that you chose, this is just for debugging purposes. But this is the important one, is if you build a style that contains options, it's going to tell you how many possible combinations you get, just so you can understand that I can take this one preset and through edit mode or through the ProffieOS workbench, or if I wanted to by hand, I could make 729 unique presets that not one of them would match. And that's without even changing colors, because obviously you can change all the colors now. So you can change the base color, the blast color, the clash, the lockup individually on every single preset. The old way, you had to create, so say I wanted to use the exact same style, but I wanted it in green, red, and blue. You could use color change, but you couldn't change the blast or the lockup or any of the other effects. They always had to stay the same. Now, because every effect actually is able to be edited, you can take these, make them different base colors, make them different blast and clash and lockup colors, make the lightning block a different color, make the melt, make the drag. You can do all those changes. You can also change all of the other stuff so that you're able to change these styles and reuse them. And you would do it using the copy presets capability, which is in the documentation, but I do plan on doing more videos on that. And then you'll go in and you'll change it. And that's where this stuff becomes important. So the reason this has to stay now with all your code, style code, even if you make changes, is because you won't know what the options are. Trying to read the code in here, these styles get massively long, but they are very efficient. So the way to make it so that users understand what they actually have, so my style options, if I'm in the edit mode menu, is I can do, by default, it's always going to be 0. So by default, if I choose this style, and style, the very first preset's always style 0. The second preset is style 1. The third is style 2 because of how they get put into the array. But at any rate, style 0, option 0 is right here. And then if I change the option, the style option, to option 1, I get this style. And if I change the style option to option 2, I get this one. And there had been a question in the Crucible, what happens if you rotate past these? They just go back in a circle. So style options was purposely left, all the options actually were left open-ended to go all the way up to the 32,768 max, because there's future use for them. But you're going to be able, so like say I go to option 3, that's actually just option 0 again, and so on. It just keeps going in a circle. That's why you want this information, so that you know what your options are. And then again, in all the effects now, so I had 3 different pre-on options set up. So if I wanted to use maybe style option 1, and this time I want to use the pre-on option 2, I would choose that. So that's where 0 is the overload, 1 disables, which means turns off the pre-on, and 2 uses the faulty ignition pre-on. Same thing if you want to change your ignition or your retraction or your power-up or your cooldown effects. And then there's also more. So there's also the force and swing effects. You can have them different. You can have them disabled, etc. That's all built in now, and you're able to do it. So even if you just want to use the style one time, but you're not sure if you wanted to have a power-up effect, or if you want to toggle between having spark tip or regular ignition, or if you want to toggle between the dual mode or the regular, you can build it into the style, and then using edit mode or using ProffieOS Workbench, you can then switch it without having to re-upload, which is really the main goal, was to be able to give you the ability to load as much as possible on the board using the library. So that's where the options come in to really make it efficient, save you that memory, but then also not have to keep uploading if you want to make little changes here and there. Obviously, if you want to add a new style, you're going to have to upload because of how the OS runs. But if there's stuff that you already know you might want to use, you can build it into the options. It's going to sit there, and you're going to be able to use it either in the preset intended or make copies of your presets and use it there. But so you're going to want to keep this whole section, and the library automatically spits all this code out based on what you've selected. So it's going to tell you that. You're also going to obviously see everything else that's running in the style. And this is to make it easier to understand versus trying to read all of this. All right, so that's the primary concept. All right, so I'm going to go back through all this stuff for you. So the idea is if you want to have a lot of presets or you want to reuse code over and over again, you can use the options. If you don't want to, you can remove options and you can still build them one-to-one. Everything is meant to work for however you mean to use it. So I took into account that there's going to be brand new users who aren't used to this stuff. That's hopefully what this video is going to help with teaching. But so let's go through the rest of this stuff. All right, so let's take a look. I've got a good amount of styles in here, but I have a backlog of styles getting added, and they're going to just keep getting added. So if you don't see a particular style you want in here, it is going to be coming. Some of them are missing videos just because I didn't shoot them yet. So obviously the rotoscope is new. The hyper responsive rotoscope is brand new. I did add a new Ninth Sister effect from Fallen Order. Let's see, these flickers are pretty straightforward. This is almost done. So I know I've been getting a lot of questions about visions, all the different shows. I have some kind of in progress styles, but they're not ready for the library yet. The plan will be to get these added. I'll probably be adding them in small bunches, but there's a lot coming for that. My unstable styles I broke into two groups. So you have, this is the normal one, the film-based one that was built off the timings in The Force Awakens. This is the enhanced one. And then all the other unstables I rolled into this. And again, they're all in here. So if you just want one, you're just going to choose the first one. If you want to build those options where one preset gets used over and over again on different, or one style used on multiple presets, and you can toggle them, you can put them all together in here. So you can build through whatever order you want. And the library will reorder. So say I decided I don't want this one to be first, it will reorder them automatically for you. So it reorders if you make changes here. And then obviously you're going to go in and you'll be able to choose. So obviously I've got quite a lot. Now, just a caveat, there is a threshold where it becomes diminishing returns. So, and I haven't quite hit it yet, but obviously the more combinations you have in a style, the bigger the style gets. So if you know that there's certain effects that you're not going to use in a lot of presets, you might want to pare it back. But you can build all of these out. And just for, let me clear through here. Let's remove all this. If you have questions about what all these names mean, because I have a lot of names, and this is only a part of it. These are, especially prions, there's a lot more in the works. These question marks are going to tell you everything. So you can click on any of the question marks. It's going to give you a description. Prions in particular, there's a lot of changes with prion effects in OS 6. Now, first and foremost, on my prop, the prion effects only display if you have a prion sound. In OS 5, whether or not you have the sound, the effect would run, and that would kind of be weird because it would run over the ignition. So OS 6 in my prop, I've made it so that if the prion sound is missing, the prion effect, even if it's in the style, doesn't run, which is also good because you can then take that style that has a prion effect in it and apply it to a preset that doesn't, and you don't have to worry about the prion effect running. Prion also, all prion effects now use the wavelength function, so they time themselves automatically. They are still designed to run about 4,000 to 12,000 milliseconds. So if you have a prion sound that's like, 100 milliseconds, the animation is going to be almost imperceivable. So do keep that in mind if you do want to add a prion effect. You need to have a prion sound, but you also need to have a prion sound that's, at least 4,000 milliseconds long to really get a lot of these animations, to give them time to work. But they are all now timed based on the actual length of the prion sound. So that used to be, they were all defaulted to 8,000 milliseconds, and you would adjust that. No more having to worry about that. It's done automatically. So it makes prions a lot better. Same with post-offs. Post-off effects also, post-off effects will run without the post-off sound, just because how the OS handles post-off, it's a little different, but they time themselves if there is a post-off sound. If there isn't, they will run a much shorter period of time. So if you do choose post-off effects, you do want to have a post-off sound for the best result. But I describe all of them. And again, this is only the beginning list. There's going to be a lot more coming. And then same thing, ignition options. If you have a question about ignition options, these are all explained here. I thought I saw a question about gravity ignition. Actually, we'll show that style. I'm going to close this. So that is under the water blade, which is a brand new style. So this is one of the new interactive styles, and there's actually a ton more coming. They're one of the more complicated ones to build, but the capabilities are going to blow a lot of people's minds. So definitely working on. But the interactive water blade, if you haven't seen the video, obviously the video goes through all this. It reacts to gravity. So if you point your saber straight up, the water will flow from the tip to the hilt. If you put your saber parallel, the water flow animation actually settles and it becomes very tranquil. And then if you point your saber down, obviously it's going to flow from hilt to tip. And the speed is totally dependent on the actual angle, just as if it was really water in the blade. The gravity ignition and gravity retraction work with that. And the other part of it is that the gravity effects actually also take inertia into account. So if you swing way fast upward, it can actually reverse the flow of water temporarily. How fast and how long it takes the water to reverse course again is dependent upon a combination of the angle you've swung as well as the acceleration. So it's a combination of interactive and the hyper-responsive capabilities. Hyper-responsive just means we're using more than one aspect. So in previous OSs, OS5 in particular, you could use swing speed, or you could use blade angle, or you could use the twist angle, and those were your main responsive capabilities. In OS6, we have clash impact, so how hard the sabers hit. We have the swing acceleration, so how quickly you pick up the speed of the saber, which is, it's related to swing speed, but it actually is dependent upon how quickly you're starting the motion. It actually gives, if you combine swing speed and swing acceleration, you actually get some really cool effects. But now we can combine that. So we can combine blade angle with swing acceleration with the swing speed, and you can do this really hyper responsive capabilities. This is one of the new styles that takes the most advantage of it, but I have a lot more coming. My smoke blade, dark saber. These are the energy blades. So I put most of these, because they're similar, into a single energy blade, and then the energy weapons. And I do have a lot more coming. This was another one that I put in here. This was another demo I did. This is the shimmer blade. Again, it's a hyper responsive effect. The shimmer blade, this one, it was designed primarily off of the new Dune film, the personal shield. It has a really cool effect to it, and there actually are specific clashes and lockups to work with it. But there's a ton more coming. And then there's actually a bunch of new rainbow capabilities that are built here. And that's what I've got now. I have, like I said, a backlog of the rest coming. And then let's go through the rest of this. So crystal chambers and accents, and I'm going to take a look at questions in a minute, I promise. I want to touch on these. Let me close this up. So if you click on the box, it closes it. For most crystal chambers and most accent LEDs, and that's your PCB if it has the LEDs in it, or if you have accents on the saber, if you have accents in your chassis, a lot of times you're going to use very similar styles over and over again. So what I've done is I've made it so that you can build up options, and there's a lot. So I've built a lot of new effects in here. And again, if you're not sure what any of them mean, they're all listed here in some kind of description. Long-term plan is to hopefully get these shot on some way into a video, but I've actually built so many, it's going to take quite a bit of time. Off behavior is the same, but you can have different on and off behaviors. So my recommendation, if you have a crystal chamber or if you have a lot of accent LEDs and you still want to fit a lot of presets, you're going to build options into the styles. So we'll build, a bunch of different ones. We'll build a turbine and a pulsing flicker. And right now the library caps at 5 options because that's about the threshold that I noticed we start getting the diminishing returns on memory saving. We'll do a fast run. So I've got all these on options, and then I can add to my off options. So we'll do a pulsing flicker. Maybe do a flow down. Do slow run and reverse. And you can set your off color, and then you would have this style. I would use this style in multiple presets. So what you're going to do now, you'll see I have 324 possible combinations. I can take a single style for my crystal chamber, and you would just repeat it in every preset, or however many presets you want. Say that you actually needed 1,000 different combos, and you couldn't get them all into one style. You would make 2 styles. But what you want to do is repeat that crystal code or repeat that accent code over and over again, it actually uses a very, very small percentage of memory that way, and it gives you more memory for your main blade. But then again, using edit mode's menu or using the ProffieOS workbench, you could then take that, because you have the same exact style on every preset for your accents or your crystals. You go and change your colors, and you can toggle the options, so you can have it do different things while on and off, as well as the different power up and cool down effects. Again, all from one style. So one of the things that I did see some people are doing is they're making individual styles for each preset for their crystal, but they end up being very similar. And if you noticed, if you missed the intro, definitely watch the intro. And I know it's a little long, but it's to show the concept. If you use the options and combine them into a single style, you're going to save memory, which gives you more room to do other stuff. And it actually makes it a little easier because you're going to have more combos. So if you just built one style for your crystal chamber, and then you have it wanted to do slightly something different in the next preset and slightly something different in the third, you get 3 essential styles. But if I take those 3 things I wanted to do and combine them with 3 other things I want to do, now I get 9 styles. So that means 9 preset possible. And again, it grows, and it grows exponentially the more options you choose. So that's the concept. And that's particularly for accents and crystals. It can be anything you want. And like I said, I purposely designed this library. If you are just love the old way of doing it, and you don't need to get to 900 presets, then you can just stick with, oops, I still have 9 active somewhere. Oh, I still got these active. We'll remove these options. And you'll get back to a single style. And what that just means is that you can edit the color and the settings within edit mode, the workbench, or your presets INI. But if you want to get more presets out of a single style, you're going to be able to do all of it now with using options. So that's the biggest piece of it. There's a lot of new code in here. There's a lot of new styles that I have that people haven't seen yet. So once this launches, go through, play with it. Like I said, all of the descriptions are just by clicking the question mark, and you can read through them. So if you want to know what an emission effect is, I've filled all this in, and all these lists, all these options in the enhancement screen are going to grow. Oh, I missed something. I knew there was something else. This is another, I'm sorry, I'm jumping around. I have a lot in my head to try to happen. So let's just go into this one. We'll leave all that active. For blast effects, this is brand new. So in the OS5 library, there was the multi-blast capability. And what I did in multi-blast is we used effect sequence, and we took like 4 different blast effects. And what it would do is every time you did a blast, it would do a new one. But it was sequential. And it wasn't as, so my goal with OS 6, and pretty much since OS 4, has been adding more and more realism to the saber. So obviously the responsive lockup capability, the new clash impact, the real clash capabilities, applying the intensity effects. So intensity, everything that's brand new, I try to highlight in the first slot so they're automatic. And you can read more about them. But intensity lockup, the longer you hold the lockup, the more intense it gets. Same with your drag, same with your melt. But blast, because if you think about it, you'd be taking on different blasts from different angles and from different weapons. I've made it so that you can build your own multi-blast. And you can choose to have no sequence, which just means a single blast, randomly selected. If you have more than one, it's just going to randomly select. And if you want to go the old way, or I keep saying old, but the OS5 version, you can still go sequence. But you can build out, and I've added all these new sound-based ones, and the sound-based ones are going to use the actual blast sound using wavelength to affect the speed, the size, and the duration of the effect. So what that means is if you have different blast sounds, you're going to not only have random selection of the blast effect, but the blast effect itself is also going to respond to the different blast sounds, so that every time you get a blast effect, it's very unique. You can choose the ones you like. So we'll do a sound base. The randoms just randomly change both their size and location. The ripple fade. And then if you want more just specific size ones, you can choose them. So we'll do that, and you can choose again up to 5. Technically it's 6 because we always start at 0. And then what will happen now is this one style is going to have 6 blast effects in it that are randomly selected every time you do a blast effect. And if you use multi-blast mode where you swing and block, it actually really adds to it because some of these also have the swing speed built in so that the effects are always unique, and they always look different. But play around with that. If you just like having a single blast effect, then you'll just go in and only do one. So everything is meant to make everybody as happy as possible. So you can go with your single style, single effect, single everything. Choose what you want, build out however many presets you want, and be perfectly fine with it. Or you can go and build all these complex option ones. Now again, options are going to be larger styles, but as you see, that's why I put this number up here to accumulate and do the math for you. Is because one of the things in the test mode styles that a lot of people weren't paying attention to is that I originally did the math wrong. I think it was actually all the test mode styles I think had 324 combinations in them. I had forgotten about a couple of things, so I had said 64. But the same thing, you're going to see how many combos you can put together. And again, the combos are accessed via changing the options in Edit Modes menu, or ProffieOS Workbench, or if you are the type to edit your presets IMI, you would do it that way. Let's see, last piece of the puzzle, and then I'm going to try to get some questions in, and then hopefully I haven't lost everybody's attention. So I know I've been getting asked this question a whole lot, both in this menu and in this menu. I've put together a very simple sample config. So you can click on that. And this is, it's only got a few presets on purpose because obviously when you spread these guys out, you see them, but it's to show you the defines that I use. So the most important defines to me in OS 6 would be, where'd you go? This one here. So disable basic parser styles. That's going to save you about 6% of memory. The other one is obviously getting the edit options available. If you are going to use options, you do need the enable all edit options. Whether or not you use the menu. If you're not using the menu and you want to use ProffieOS Workbench, then I've shown this in the documentation. Make sure you have WebUSB as one of your options. So I typically do Serial plus WebUSB. That allows for you to do the editing through ProffieOS Workbench. I recommend against doing the mass storage because as people who are testing can see, if you have access to your SD card and you can get it out without destroying it or without messing your board up, that's always the best to me. All my sabers I build so I have easy access to the SD card. I have an external SD reader. Not only is it faster, but it doesn't lock your SD card up. If you choose mass storage, the SD card is going to engage as soon as you plug your saber into the computer, and you have to actually eject it. If you don't eject it, particularly if you're trying to use ProffieOS Workbench, it actually is active and it can't use the Workbench. The other downside that some people still don't realize is if you use mass storage and your saber is plugged in, and then you just unplug the saber and you don't eject the SD card from your computer, you can get corruption in the SD card. You can also, and if your SD card gets corrupted, you're going to lose what's on it. So I typically, whenever anybody asks me, I don't use the mass storage. I don't recommend it. If you have a saber that you cannot get to the SD card, then that's your only option. Definitely make backups of your SD card so that you don't lose it, and it always eject. It should just be common practice, but I guess it's not to everybody. But you do want to enable the WebUSB if you are using options, and not using the menu. If you're using Edit Modes menu, it handles it all. But if you're not, you want to have that access to WebUSB so that you can use the ProffieOS Workbench and you can do all the editing there. And I know, actually, I see Megtooth on the chat. I didn't say hi to everybody. I apologize. But Megtooth actually walked through the WebUSB. I have a video, but the sound is terrible, and I haven't had a chance to do it. Oh, somebody just popped up. Yes, this is another conversation. I'm going to touch on this. But this will actually be, because I do want to get some questions. This is, if you're making edits to your saber through Edit Mode or ProffieOS Workbench, and you want to not have to worry about wiping them out. You're going to want this defined. But there's a few caveats with this define, and I have a wiki page on it, and of course I linked it. Nope, I didn't link it there. Oh, this is the wrong, on the library. Right here. Keeping edits when uploading. This is the wiki page I just put together on it. There's a few important notes with that define. So read through all of this. If you do have additional questions, post them in the Crucible. But that define is really helpful, but it does have a few caveats to it because the presets INI overrides your config. So the biggest one would be if you change the style's position, meaning you had a style as your first preset and you decided you didn't like that and you move it somewhere else, or if you add styles, or particularly if you delete styles, the presets INI will no longer line up. If you delete a preset entirely and it's referenced in your presets INI, the board will lock up. So there are a few important things to remember with that, but this is a very important define. I did not have this define used within the testing because of all the caveats. So if you are going to use it, please be sure you read through this. Again, it's going to be linked off of the top menu of the library right here. And all the other documentation is very important. My prop, a lot of the features for OS 6 run through my prop. If you need one button, that's why I worked with SA22C to get my prop set up for it. If you use SA22C prop in OS 6, you won't have most of the capabilities. So if you have used SA22Cs in the past, be sure to switch over to mine. The one button is pretty much in line with his. And then everything else that's here. Now I'm going to try to answer a few questions. So that's the intro for everybody. Everybody who joined late, the library will be officially launching most likely in the morning. I have to finish a couple pieces before I can make this public to everybody. If I get them done in the next hour before bed, I might push publish, but I think that's a mistake because then I think I'm going to wake up to a lot of people with problems. So it'll probably publish in the morning, and I will blast it everywhere with the link so you can all start playing. But I wanted this video so that I could describe everything you just saw. So if you're joining late, when this comes back on replay, definitely watch the beginning. It's really important. It explains a lot. But let's go through some questions. So, and if you want to bail, no problem. If I missed you, I apologize. I'm going to try to roll all the way back up through my comments and see what I got. I'm going to try to start at the top. And if I miss something, I apologize. And if you're watching this on replay and you're using the library, this is the point where, unless you want to see these questions answered, you can now jump into the library. So, and in case I forgot to say it, a big thank you to all my current patrons. I've been working on this library, actually, I think it's been in the works for 8 months, and it was a huge undertaking. It was probably a little too ambitious. That's why it took me longer. A lot of nights of banging my head on the desk, but it is where I want it, which is why it's releasing. So I'm excited for everybody to get their hands on it. All right. Let's see. Thank you, everybody who came in tonight. I did not get to say hi to everybody. I'm going through here. Cole, yes, this is OS 6. None of this code in this library can work backwards. You can use OS 5 code in OS 6, but you're going to lose the editing capabilities. And I get that question a lot. And just for people who are, if you want to get the most, if you want to maximize the memory of the board, you are going to want to use all OS 6 styles. You can use OS 5 styles. They will run perfectly fine. You'll just lose some editing capabilities. But OS 6, on top of everything else, there's a lot of optimization in the style code itself, and how the styles are built, which is part of what's taking a long time to convert them. You can actually get more out of the OS 6 code if you use all OS 6 code versus if you mix and match. But obviously, I haven't converted all the styles over. If you got a style you love from OS 5, it's not an OS 6 version or something you built in OS 5 and you don't want to convert it over, by all means, you can absolutely use it. OS 5 works perfectly fine. There's been some misunderstanding on that. I've been obviously working very hard to get the OS 6 styles out so that we can have everything covered. But being one person and the amount of time it takes to do this, I'll be rolling more out, but it's going to be over the course of a couple months. Plus, I have a ton of new stuff that I'm trying to build out just to take advantage of everything. So there is a lot. This is I mean, I think there's 100,000 possible combinations in the library right now. And it's maybe 5% of what I want to get in there. So there's a lot coming. All right, let's see. Question about the style editor. Style editor is done by Frederick. The style editor currently is on OS 4. For those of you who've tried to edit OS 5 styles, it works kind of, except for certain things. He is going to update it to OS 6. I haven't seen it, and I'm not sure where he is on working on it. I will work with him longer term once he gets the basics in there. Again, to handle that comment, the copyright section, which again is going to be important. And I did touch on it. I actually didn't go into it enough. That copyright section, it contains the link, the name of your, actually I'll bring it up. It's going to contain the name of the effect. It's going to contain a link to get back to it if you wanted. It's going to contain, if there's a bug, if you have a compile error, it has a number and a version on it. That's for me, but you'll give that to me. Technically, if you get a compile error now or in the future, if you just give me that comment section, that's all the info I need. I don't even need the style code. That's part of the reason for it. The other reason for it is I get questions. So somebody will send me a YouTube video. Hey, so-and-so put this video together. I think it's from your library. Can you tell me what it is? I get that question so often, and I can tell most of my styles pretty well, but some of them are pretty close to each other. It's really hard to get you to hit it exactly. Now I don't have to do that. It's all written out right here, which is the third reason for this, was to make it easier for people to share, because you can combine so many different things that it's hard to keep track of. This is your receipt for what you built. And this is what you can tell somebody else. Hey, I did a hyper-responsive rotoscope original trilogy. I did the faulty ignition preon, and I did the spark tip ignition, and I did the unstable power up. And then they can replicate the exact same thing very easily. And there's a few more features coming to the library in phase 2 and 3 to actually take that to a whole nother level. But so this code, I'm going to work with Frederick to try to make sure that this doesn't get lost if you take a style into editor. Because if you lose this, particularly if you've built out a lot of options, it's going to make it harder to use edit mode or to do the edit selection. So this is very important, because this is going to let you know, okay, if I want to change my ignition to this type, what's the number I need to do for the option? And that's where all these pieces of information come in, so that you're able to do that. So you want to keep this, first of all, because the code was created on my library, you do want to keep the copyright there for that purpose. But secondly, is so that you know what options you've selected and can easily choose them in edit mode or the workbench. And then third, for me to debug or for other people to replicate the styles that you have, you can provide this as well. But let's go back. All right, a couple more. Yeah, spark tip. Yep, spark tip is an old style. It's still going to be there. Yes, Brian asked about the setting. Oh, I forgot I can show you guys comments. I apologize for the previous ones. Yes, the settings will always stay where you left off, and that's on purpose. Particularly if you have like really good combos of ignition effects, preon effects, etc., that you want to use on multiple different bass styles, it actually saves more memory too. So the more repeats you do in styles, it lets you build more styles out. And then again, there is obviously a threshold. If you have a style that contains, the what is it, 12,000 or so combos possible, or maybe it was 3,400. I might be exaggerating. It was a lot. Obviously, you're going to use it more memory quicker. But yes, it's always going to remember what you did for each one of these is individual. So the main blade is built differently than the Quillian, than the Crystal, and the Accent. So these all have their own screen. For those of you who have Quillians, if you're like me and you've wired your crossguard blade where it has two separate side blades, I've made this so that you can get the code twice automatically. So I don't have much chosen here, but if you have two crossguard Quillians wired on separate pads or as separate blades, if you do this and then get your style code, I've made it easier on us, because I used to have to do that all the time, where I would have to go and copy the style twice. Now it's going to put two styles in for you automatically. So another enhancement to the library. And that's only if you're running the cross guards, or if you have two blades that have to be identical all the time, you can use that as an option. Okay. Gravity ignition, I think I covered, Cole. That's it's a new ignition effect that reacts to the angle of the blade in terms of the speed of the ignition or the retraction, but it also has an inertia effect built in. So if you swing really hard, it'll actually increase the speed of the ignition. Let's see. So, okay, text editor got covered. I'm trying to get through everything here. Yes, I use Sublime Text, and that was Brian actually put me onto that. I actually used an old Notepad for the longest time. Sublime Text is definitely an upgrade. It definitely helped in a lot of ways. Anybody who came in late, definitely when this is published, go back and watch the beginning. The beginning is probably the more important of everything else. Everything else is, showing you basic stuff, but the intro is kind of a lesson to explain why all this stuff is set up the way it is. And hopefully I did a good job of it. Let's see. Yes, the comments, the whole copyright comment section is automatically generated by the library based on what you chose. So it'll always list what you've chosen so that you can go in and replicate it again in the future, or you can share it with somebody else. Let's see. Thank you for all the great comments, guys. I do appreciate it. Yeah, this has been a lot of work for a long time to get to this point. Yes, I am as soon as we're done here, I'm gonna make this live. I think there's a delay period for StreamYard to go show up, but it will be. Let's see. So Shane, it's really going to be learning a new syntax, in all honesty. Everything is still layers. There is a lot more functions in these styles. But once you've learned them, they actually, in some ways, they're easier than some of the old stuff. But it's all on the user. A lot of this is brand new. Particularly if you go in and look at the style code, it's the same format it's always been. It's just got a lot of new functions in it. If you go look up those functions and break them down, I'm sure you can figure it out. The goal with the library, which is probably a phase 2, phase 3, is to make more editing possible through the library itself. A lot of times when I've seen people take the style code from the previous libraries, they drop them in style editor, they tweak one or two things, maybe change the speed of something, maybe change the size of something. The sizes are actually editable now anyway. Your drag size, your melt size, all that stuff. Your positioning, so you used to have to change like the lockup position, that's now editable. So a lot of settings are already editable. Speeds for ignition and retraction are editable automatically. You can auto time everything. Pre-on effects were another big one that a lot of people had to fix. Those are all auto timed. So in a lot of ways, there's also a less need. Now, if you just like building styles, my first recommendation is probably start small from scratch. If you come into the new syntax based off of only breaking down pieces of old style code and trying to figure out what's happening, it's very easy to get lost. If you come at it from the approach of what the style is trying to do, it's not so complicated. That would be my answer. Again, once the style editor is up, not sure on the timeline on that, it might make it a little easier for some of it, but there's also large concepts behind it, which is where the options come in. And there's concepts also in how the styles are purposely designed, so that it's a combination of making them editable for everybody, making them saving as much memory as we can through how we do it, and then also taking into account all the new potential that's going to be coming. So particularly all the responsive and hyper responsive capabilities, there's a lot of functions in there that are doing a lot of things, whereas you used to just have like a regular number. So, you used to maybe just have a number 3,000 for a speed of something, and that way you call it a day, you change that to 4,000, it goes faster. Well, a lot of these hyper responsive capabilities, they don't have a speed. They are looking at the swing speed, the clash impact, the swing acceleration, and a bunch of other functions all together to produce that speed. And that's where it all of a sudden becomes more complicated if you're looking at it as only a, hey, I just want to change it 3,000 to 4,000. Instead, you want to look at it as, hey, what inputs are creating the speed that I'm seeing, and understand those. But for if you haven't played with functions, if you haven't played with building out the particularly like the alpha layer function capabilities, learn that stuff first, and then it will make a little bit more sense. Hopefully that helped. That's probably harder to explain. Let's see. Let's see. I'm old too, people. Everybody who said they were old, I'm right up there with y'all. I'm 45. I covered the save files from Brian earlier, but yes, if you're making edits and you want to maybe upload a new config, you're going to want it's in here. I have it. I think I have the sample config open. Yeah, I do. This one here, and then you're going to want to read. If you come from the library, I got to put that link on the sample config. You can click this guy, keeping edits when uploading, and it'll open this new wiki page which explains it. It's a straightforward define, but there are caveats to using it, so definitely read through that. Particularly if you're making a lot of changes between uploads, you do want to keep that in mind, all this in mind in terms of what's going to actually happen with that. But it is a very useful define. Oops. I think I'm getting to the end here. And if I missed anything, I do apologize. Brian. Color wheel zoom is not a thing anymore. No, it actually hasn't been a thing since alpha testing. I think it was in some old documentation, so I know people have used it. Putting it in doesn't do anything. It doesn't hurt anything either. But yes, that color wheel zoom was merged to my prop as a permanent function when color list got enabled. So it no longer needed to define. In the very early development of OS 6, it was a define, and it was really just for the color wheel. But the zoom functionality actually got expanded right when we went into the alpha testing. So that define hasn't done anything for a really long time. Let's see. Hopefully you saw all of them on here, Megtooth, and hopefully I got to you before you left. I've put a lot in the library, and I have even more coming. And Crystal Chamber and XNLEDs have a lot of similar ones. I just changed the order based on what people usually would use. But there's a ton of them in here, and there's got to be at least 20 more I have backlog that'll be coming in. And again, if you're not sure what something means, I'm going to always keep the descriptions in this little sidebar. But there's already a lot there. Again, the option-wise, you can only put 6 in up to option 5. It's 0 to 5. So you would build a couple if you really wanted to get all of these. But there's a lot already, and there's even more coming. Let's see. Oh, was there a question? Oh. Yeah, 6.5 is going to be needed for the library. I do have it in the title at the top. The reason is there was a couple bug fixes related to transition effects, as well as a couple little tweaks and additions, and there was a bad define in my prop, I think, in one of the versions. So when the library launches, it is based off of 6.5. If you are running 6.3, you definitely want to update because there was a bug report. If you're running 6.4, there's certain styles that will create a compile error. So you're definitely going to want to upgrade to 6.5. I'm requiring 6.5 just to avoid those compile errors. If you have 6.5 and you grab a style from the library and it gives you a compile error and you missed it earlier, click this little link at the top for the OS 6 library beta and just put you can put the error message in, and it will tell me what's going on. I've been testing this thing for weeks now and been fixing bugs for weeks now. But it is brand new. All the code, all the scripts, everything in here is brand new. I've been working on it for a really long time, but it is entirely possible. There's still some little things going on. So this will be a beta launch. But hopefully there's not much because I feel like I've covered most of it. But if you get any problems, just let me know. I'll get them fixed. And yeah, wavelength is built into all of the ignition and retraction effects in the library automatically. And it's editable. This was covered in the edit mode documentation, but while I have everybody here, I will show it. Let me close this. So you can set ignition times if you want auto. So the auto feature is in this note here. If you set your time to 0 for ignition or retraction, that automatically uses the wavelength. So it's both. And that was a feature that's actually been in edit mode since the beginning. It lets you set a particular speed or use wavelength all from the same style. So that's, again, part of that option capability that lets you. So if you wanted to just always have your ignition or retraction or both always time themselves automatically, you're just going to set ignition time to 0, and the style handles it itself. If you wanted to set fixed speeds for an ignition but have retraction time based on it, then you would just set the retraction to 0, which is default. Default, I always default 300 for ignition and 0 for retraction, and the 0 will be based on the wavelength. But you can set ignition to 0, and it will base itself on the wavelength as well. And that's every ignition within the library. I saw this as a request, I think, for OS 7. It's not currently possible because of how PostOff is called. It would be a future edition for OS 7. Let's see. Yeah, the styles are one string on purpose, twofold. The length of the style code, particularly with the option capability, is so long that it is impossible to read your config if I left it. So because I use Sublime Text, I make it one line, and it's going to be a super long line. But the reason for the comment section is you don't need to read it anymore. Now, if you're the type of person who wants to go in and edit that individually, yeah, that's going to be a pain in the butt. But my hope is that with the library and with the comments, that becomes less and less necessary. And again, one of the future updates I already have planned for the library is more customization of the individual parts of the style through the library. Not replacing the editor, but just over the number of years since the color change library, a lot of what people change ends up being the same. They change it to a different value, but a lot of the time when I see iterations of my style being used for something else, they've changed 1, 2, 3 pieces, and they end up being roughly the same pieces almost every time. So I'm working on making a tool that will let that happen through a customized type thing. But that'll be, I think that might actually have to be phase 3 because I do have some other big pieces in the works. But the code, as you can see, it doesn't have any indentation on purpose. I try to make sure for the general user that when they paste it, it just does its thing. So there's no indentation on the code generated by the library. Now, if you mess with it and you can put line breaks in and etc., that's the end user basically has access to that. Oh, I didn't cover that. How did I not cover that? That's a great question. I hope you didn't leave Tikita. There is. I totally missed that. If you want. So the design behind the crystal and accent is to let you do, most of the time when you do an accent or crystal, a lot of the really crazy effects don't actually translate because usually it's 1 pixel or 2. So typically you would want to use one of the versions in the custom section. If you really want it, all you got to do is toggle this, match blade style. And it's going to take whatever you chose as your blade style. So I'll show it here. So if I just wanted the Kylo Ren unstable, I go into crystal chamber for that style, do match blade style, probably you'd want that in red. And then when you get your style code, it's actually going to be, and I can show it. I'll get my style code and we'll put you here. I got to remember that this has 3 styles in it before I try to test it. But you'll see now I've actually got a crystal chamber running the Kylo Ren unstable base style. So you can, and I should have covered this earlier. Thanks for the question. Too many things to cover, but yes, accents are the same thing. Some people have accent strips and they want them to react just like the blade. Like if you had it in the emitter or something, same thing. You can do match blade style. It just changes up from being a custom build, which is the more common use. You change it to match blade style and it turns your on behavior to match to the blade. If there's a need, we could do that for off behavior. A lot of the on behaviors, though, are a lot more complex and you usually wouldn't run them. But technically, if there's enough request for it, I could set that up here as well. I think we're getting towards the end here. Maybe. Oops, I jumped a lot. I hope I didn't skip anybody. Let's see. I think I covered this, but just in case I didn't, if you set your ignition or retraction time to 0, that's auto. And there's a note in both sections on any blades. I do have marble in the works. I don't have I don't have a round PCV to test it on. So I haven't been able to test it. Frederick has his. I haven't played with that style enough, but it is on the list of additions to the accent library as well as crystal would be weird, but I'll probably put it in the crystal just in case. But yeah, the marble will be coming actually I have a couple ideas for uses for it, but eventually. Brian, I covered ignition retraction time. It's auto built into every ignition and retraction effect. They use either the time or if the time is set to 0, it uses wavelength automatically. That's going to be so. Yeah, if you really want all your ignitions and retractions to always be wavelength, just set the time to 0. Not in the accent. We'll do it in the main blade or secondary blade, but main blade, you would set them to 0. So if you set ignition time to 0, retraction time to 0, that automatic, so it's written right here, it uses the auto feature, which times itself to the wavelength. I'm probably way behind, so I probably repeated the same answer several times, and I apologize. I think I caught up to the end. If I missed anybody, I do apologize. I've ran way long. If you're watching this on replay and you made it this long, thanks for sticking with me. For everybody who stuck with me live on this, thanks again. Again, thank you to all my patrons. I see the questions for the URL. The URL will be in the description of this video once it's live. I do have to get a little bit of work done, and it's getting late here. So I have to get a couple pieces finished. They're just small, but I really don't want to put something up that I know has a bug in it. So as soon as that's done, actually looking at the time and knowing what I have to do this evening, it will most likely be launched in the morning. And I am in the United States, so it'll be my morning. But I will post a link to it everywhere. So it'll be on Facebook, it'll be on the Crucible, it'll be on my channel, it'll be on my Patreon account. So as soon as it's live, everybody will be able to jump in and use it. Hopefully my AWS server can put up with the traffic, and we will go from there. And I know I've said it a couple times, this is a beta launch. If you find any bugs either in the site itself or in the style code, follow that link so that I can fix it. All right. Even though it doesn't look like there's a lot of styles in there, if you look through all the option capabilities, there's thousands of styles already in there. It's taken me a long time to do it, and I've been testing them as I go. But if there's something that doesn't work, just let me know and I'll fix it. So this is been a long time coming. I'm excited to have it launch. It will be, I'm going to draw a line in the sand tonight so I don't drive myself crazy in the next half hour. And it will launch in the morning for everybody. And then we're off and running. And there will be regular updates. I already have 2 additional styles. I'm not going to name them yet because they're not ready. Coming. I have multiple Preon effects, multiple ignition effects that I have to just finish testing them out. And then everything else that's in the library for OS 5 is coming over. Some of the styles are going to get, on top of getting updated to OS 6, I'm actually improving them, which is where some of the time's coming in. Because, again, we have so many new capabilities. There's some styles that I had built a year or 2 ago that I just couldn't quite do perfectly. So I am using this time to make them even better. So there will be continuous updates to this library for a very long time to come, as well as 2 new phases planned with some brand new, really powerful tools. So this is only the beginning. This is definitely nowhere near the end. This is the very very tippy top of the iceberg of what's coming. So, one more question. Yes, any font makers out there, I had posted, I have a new tool coming to the library. It's not a secret, but I'm not broadcasting it yet because I have to do some work for it. But I've reached out to a number of font makers. A lot of you have already contacted me. I gave you basically some questions. You gave me the answers that I needed. I'm gauging interest in some tools, but I think there's already enough interest. There will be a new tool coming to the library in a future release that will make it much easier for you to match fonts and styles, but also for the font makers to be able to have that style code easily accessible to people who use their fonts. But it's a future. Right now it's a concept. I have to finish some other stuff, and then I'm going to get back with the font makers and we'll move forward with it. But there was enough interest from my initial question that I already decided it's worth doing. But if you didn't reply or you're not familiar with it, just shoot me a PM through the Facebook open source or Proffie board group, and I can catch you up. I'm just not broadcasting everything about it yet because some of it's still only in my head. But there is a lot more coming. There's actually a lot of tools being added that I have to finish building. So thanks so much, everybody. I definitely ran way longer than I expected, but hopefully this was helpful. I know a lot of people really want that library released tonight. I've been working the past 2.5, 3 weeks as every second of every day I had free to get to this point, and I just have a tiny little bit left. So tomorrow morning it will be hitting, and we'll be off and running from there. So thanks, y'all, and have a great night. Thanks so much.